Hey guys, my name is Tetos and in this video I'm going to tell you how to play Draven like Freeze. Instead of the combo section, which is usually part of my video guides, I will talk about how to juggle your axes correctly instead, which would be quite interesting to anybody who's looking to learn how to play Draven. Of course, I will also talk about recommended runes, masteries, summoner spells, etc. So stay tuned for that and also check out the additional resources or time codes in the description down below. For summoner spells you should be always running heal and flash. Let's talk about rune pages now. As you can see here, there are 5 rune pages that are used by Freeze on Draven, and I want to say that you can use any of these basically, but you should definitely pick up any MR rune page against early enemy AP threats on the support position. For example, if they are running support any or Syra, you definitely want to pick up MR runes. Also, you want to take the most aggro page possible, as I said, so 1 to 3 are more aggro, more aggressive than 5 to 4 or 4 to 5. And you choose more attack speed if you're against an AD reliant enemy ADC like Grave Solution, so you want to trade and can trade longer, but against, for example, Kalista or Vayne, you want to burst them or poke them in short trades instead of, trading for long periods of time, because then their true damage or their rend can be stacked, so that's not something you want. So you build more AD or you pick more AD in your rune page or even the armor penetration page, for example, to really burst and poke them down heavily. For Masteries, Freeze runs a very standard 21, 9 and 0 AD carry page. It's not a lot to say here except that he's focusing of course on all the AD and crit masteries and a very standard 9 points in defense as well. For your skill order you should max R before Q, before W, before E, and the reason for that is that you want to of course maximize your Q damage and the movement speed and attack speed self buff from the W. Now for level 1, 2, 3 and 4 he actually goes Q, W, Q and then E, because the improved Q damage can really hurt the enemy, and the E, which is kind of an escape or a chase down spell or a very slight CC spell, it doesn't really matter if you get it earlier than level 4, because usually around level 2 you get the power spike and then you don't take E because Q and W is better, and later at level 4 you can then get it as a kind of escape spell when you get ganked, but he always actually goes Q, W, Q and E, no discussion here. For item builds, you're definitely starting as always Doran's Blade, Health Potion and a Warding Totem. You want to rush your boots, tier 1 boots and a BF sword of course, and then depending on what you're paired with or what you're against, into an Infinity Edge or a Bloodthirster. Of course your core build should be tier 2 boots, BT or IE, as well as a Ghost Blade and mana potions, because Draven is very mana hungry, and with the W reset you really spam a lot of mana and you need the mana to stay competitive throughout the game. The question is BT or IE. Now you would go BT usually for the shield, the strong poke, sustain and the all-in, but for a support like Soraka or Janna on your team, you don't want to get it because the IE synergizes very well with those supports. For example, you don't need the sustain from BT if you have a Soraka on your team who heals you, and the shield, which gives bonus AD from Janna, is very strong and synergizes well with IE crits, so that's what you want to do. Replace your Warding Totem with a Scrying Orb, usually when the support has Sidestone or around minute 10 to 15. Tier 2 boot should be bought after the first or second item, and defensive item is usually QSS into Mercurial Scimitar because it has a lot of AD as well. Otherwise, you can definitely sometimes get a Garden Angel or a Banshee's Wail if you need that. For your full build, aim to get tier 2 boots, IE, BT, Ghost Blade, Last Whisper and the Mercurial Scimitar usually. Boot enchant usually none, but sometimes home guards when deafing. And elixir of course should be Wrath, because that's the best elixir you can have for Draven, and it's also often bought by Freeze around the 25-minute or 30-minute mark to snowball even harder. So what's your game plan on Draven actually? You want to abuse your super strong early game and laning phase, you want to build up your stacks, go for bottom lane kills to cash in of course, and then take bottom lane towers if the enemy team is dead or has specced. You want to rotate afterwards to mid or top to really keep the cash flow going. Play like a man, but never suicide and feed relentlessly 1v5. You can't really do that unless you're really far ahead. So we want to group after completing a major item actually, with a power spike to dive the enemies or just team fight strong. And during the team fights you will need to position well of course. You can try to crit squishies, but don't be afraid to switch to tanks if the front line is very strong, or if you're against a very long-ranged squishy team or squishy carries on the enemy team, because actually it's smarter to focus the tanks and really kill them quickly, which you can do if you're strong in the mid and early game, especially on Draven. So don't hesitate to do that. When playing Draven, there isn't really a combo you can do, but Juggling Axes is of course a very important concept when playing the champion, so you definitely want to master it. The direction where your axes are landing actually is depending on the way your character is moving when the axe hits the target. So as you can see here, you either stay still during the process and it lands exactly on your location or just to your side, or you move afterwards and then it goes a bit further in the direction you were moving to. In lane you definitely want to have 2 spinning axes active at all times, so always take care or keep track of your buff, which is spinning axe buff. Whenever it is almost timing out, either hit Q again if you can't hit a creep, or just hit a creep or the enemy to reset the buff timer, and harass the enemy of course with the 2 spinning axes at all times if possible, because it's just a very strong thing, especially in the early game. Now some people juggle with 1 axe, some people juggle with 2, some even with 3, but the problem in teamfights especially is that it's not really feasible to do juggle with 3 axes, because the problem is that if you get hit by CC or displacement abilities, you lose all your DPS because you drop the axes, and having the Q cooldown ready in case you drop 1 or 2 axes is definitely helpful and something you should do in teamfights. We all know about Draven's very strong early game and laning phase, so he often freeze actually does camp at level 1 with his support, so you definitely want to put down your warding totem to counter any invades, and if the enemy just wants to fight you at level 1, you definitely want to back off and just go to lane safely. However, you can, as you can see here, do the Gromp pretty easily with Draven's strong level 1 damage, and especially with the China Shield of course that works very nicely as well. You can also do the Gromp in a way that you get all the XP for level 2. It's not a bad thing, especially if your support can't really use the level 2, or you can just split the XP and then hit level 2 at the same time in lane. Of course you can also do the Crux if you're on the blue side. Now in lane itself you want to abuse your strong early damage. As you can see here, you can force pretty much almost every AD carry out of lane at level 1 and 2 definitely, and also rush level 2 to get the power spike if you haven't started the lane with level 2 as in the jungle camp with the additional XP. So you want to walk up with the blood rush to your enemy if possible and then hit them at level 2. Hurt them as much as possible, even get a kill maybe sometimes. However, if it's not possible, at least force them out of lane and zone them heavily, which is something that you can easily do on Draven, especially in the early stages of the game when the jungler might not be bot yet and he has to clear his camps first. However, chasing someone down with axes is an pretty easy task if you have your spinning axes active, because of course if you catch an axe the blood rush cooldown resets, as you can see here, so you really can spam it to chase people and get kills. However, it also means that you're using a lot of mana, and this is also a reason why Freeze likes to get mana potions throughout the game. So zoning, as you can see here at level 1, is also possible against the Kalista Thresh lane, which is actually pretty broken, but Draven's damage is sometimes even more broken, and you can see here how the enemy team just doesn't do anything. They play super safe, super passive, and that's also something you can use to build up your lead. However, if you're playing like this, it also means you will get ganked if you're pushing constantly, if you're over aggressing in some way. So that means you will get ganked and camped sometimes. Be careful about that. And also remember that after you build up your stacks, you want to be greedy, you want to last it in KS as much as possible to just cash in and keep the cash flow going. When team fighting on Draven, positioning is key, as for every other AD carry as well, but more so for Draven because he doesn't have a real escape spell. So you can see that in this clip he actually flashes in for Zed because he thinks he can get an easy kill there, but he uses his only escape tool and pays the price with his life because Malphite and Zed just dive him and kill him. So that's something you don't want to do, obviously. If you want to do it right, you have to rely on your teams sometimes even. So you want to stay back, hit anybody you can who is in range. So don't just flash in for their squishes if you don't have the backup, but just stay safe, hit the tanks, hit the people who dive you. And if your team peels for you and helps you with shields, of course, and stuff like that, you can definitely be the true hard carry your team deserves and get a triple kill, get a quarter kill, get all the kills you want. But it just shows that you definitely sometimes want to stay back and hit tanks instead of squishies. Key factors when playing Draven of course include learning how to juggle correctly, but we've also covered that, so let's take a look at some other points. So you definitely want to be careful when getting ganked. You want to use your summoner spells in time, not as in this clip, because if you use them till later, don't use them at all, you will pay the price with your life. And also, Draven doesn't know how to escape that well. He knows how to go in very well, but escaping is not that easy because, you know, if your flash is down, you don't really have another real escape, because actually your blood rush can't really reset if you're running away and you are not juggling axes. You also want to be very selfish, as in you want to do a lot of jungle camps for additional stacks and gold, of course, to cash in once you get some kills on the enemy team, and also catching someone out, as in this clip, the Thresh, as always with the chase down maneuver, the reset on the blood rush, and the ultimate for some finishing off kills is very important. I've also talked about rotating after taking the bottom lane turret, which is something you definitely want to do, especially if the enemy bottom lane is freezing. So you either go top or mid, depending on which lane is better or easier to push, or if you can dive the enemy laners, which is usually not the case or not that easy for mid lane, but for top lane, nobody expects an early lane swap or just rotating top lane, and you can definitely keep the cash flow going, which is definitely something you want on Draven, to really hit your item power spikes and abuse them in turn. Of course, rotating mid after bottom lane and top lane is down is just the very standard thing to do, but even then some AD carries just don't do it, or just don't want to do it for some reason. In 2v2s you have to be careful, because even if you're ahead you can lose them. Some Dravens are just way too over aggressive, and if you don't dodge enemy CC you definitely don't do any damage and just will go down, even in a scenario where you're ahead actually. However, you definitely, if you can, crit people like this. It looks pretty funny to get a 1k crit on squishes, but it's something you can definitely do and reproduce if you are ahead and snowballing. It is something that I won't cover in my teamfighting clips, because you definitely want to avoid teamfights usually. If you can crit a squishy like this, you want to do it and get the kill, and then definitely the enemy team will be a bit more, you know, reserved. However, you can also go too aggressive against tanks, for example. Diving them like this is pretty reckless, and it's not something you want to do on Draven. Once more, we'll take a look at the game plan to finally understand every single point. I hope the video was insightful to you and you learned something new today. Welcome to the end screen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, thanks for liking and sharing this video. On the right hand side, as always, you can see the link to the previous episode where I taught you how to play Rek'Sai like Fnatic's Reignover. Also, of course, down below there's a link to the playlist which features every single episode so far. I hope you have a great summer vacation, holidays, whatever you have around this time of the year, and I see you in the next one. Until next time, bye bye.